Sanders, he's got more of a wide open style, high amplitude throws, very exciting to watch, especially if he gets on top. I did see him in a semi. He hit a sweet lat drop. It was a drag to a duck under to a lat drop. I didn't see it coming, but it was quick, fast and easy. Got a first period fall out of that. Hooker, like I said, I have not seen him wrestle in person. He's a relative unknown to me, but he's fresh out, into the Army.
Yep.
So that's probably why we haven't seen him. He has to go to boot camp, do all that stuff before he can get cleared to wrestle for the Army. But now in Colorado Springs, Army's a top-class team. And Greco-Roman, they got great coaches. So we'll see how this happens. Hooker was 4th in the Minnesota Storm Holiday Cup at 71. Kendrick, U.S. Open champion, 2nd in the U.S. Open in 2013, 3rd in the World Team Trials. He's won this tournament twice before, so has the experience. And you would think he has the edge in this match, but as I said, Hooker's
just don't know with Hooker.
He's sort of a wild card right now. So we'll see what happens.
Getting action right away here. Sanders right away going to that 2-on-1 with Hooker trying to catch that far elbow and clear out of it. Sanders getting some good pressure forward, trying to post that down to the mat.
Yep, Sanders doing a good job here, taking ground, controlling the center of the mat, pressuring forward, up and in, body motion. See, he took that hook and clubbed it right across the chest, gets him off balance, up and in. And
Sanders is going to score a point there as they wrestle out of bounds. Since there's no more push-outs, it's if action continues out of bounds, correct?
Well, here's the scenario. It's changed a little bit in the last day or two, but you're gonna see either no points, 1 point, or a caution in 2. So it depends on whether or not the guy is directly pushing, like hands from the chest straight out. That's not going to be a push out. Just a rule of thumb, I guess. If you start in the center of the mat and the guy just drives you out of bounds, in a split second, that's not going to be a point. It's got to be within the action of a wrestling move.
Killer Williams looking a short drag there, not able to get that corner. Good job there by Hooker squaring up. Going back to that 2-on-1 for Sanders.
Yeah, and you're seeing passivity here on Hooker. Sanders working that 2-on-1 down the mat. And you see Sanders he's controlling the pace, controlling the action, controlling where we're going on the mat as well. All little details. Big throw there from Sanders.
Scores 2 points on that takedown, getting that 2-on-1, steps his hips in. Whips Hooker down to the mat to score the takedown as they go out of bounds. So Sanders got a 3-0 lead, minute 41 left in this first period.
One thing about Sanders is he looks so relaxed out there.
So calm.
Yeah, he's really calm, and just that demeanor, he's confident in his skill. We know that. But, you come out there and you're like, man, he's a little laid back. But once he decides to go, it's quick, it's fast.
And it's explosive.
Yeah, you're not going to –
he's been known to hit those high amplitude throws, as you were saying before, and just really blow open matches at the split second. As he's going to get called for passivity there. In that over-under position here, trying to clear that hook at the wrist there for Sanders. Doesn't seem like Hooker's able to get to much of his ties as he tries to control the overhook there. Pulls a passivity again against Sanders, so he puts his first point on the board, so it's 3-1.
Yeah, Sanders trying to pummel in here, get double unders, crunch it up to a body lock.
He had it for a second, had that over-under body lock, shed it. It's going to be hard to score with those hips away. He tries to snap him down there, pull him forward.
Well, and Hooker gets a point there. They awarded a passivity against Sanders, so Hooker gets on the board, 3-1 score with 30 seconds left here in the first, and that's going to be another passivity on Hooker. And
so one for Sanders. Now he's out again to that 3-point lead. Both guys have those passivity points against them with 15 seconds left in this first period.
Yeah, as time ticks down, looking at a 4-1 Sanders lead. And, we should mention, if guys are just tuning in, different rule set here today.
Yeah, experimental rules.
Yeah, experimental rules. That's definitely what it is right now. It's an experiment. A little bit of inconsistencies. But just to run it down real quick, you're probably a little confused about the passivities. So every other passivity, you're going to get a point. So basically you get a warning, then you get a point. Then you get a warning, then you get a point on down the line. They're not cautions, so that 3 caution rule that we saw last year, it still applies, but not to passivities. So that's why you're seeing the points. And you're not going to have the referee stop the action like we saw in years past. So the wrestlers don't necessarily know they gave up a point, which
can hurt them in the
it
long
can
run.
hurt
They got to
them.
be really attentive
I did
to what's
see that
going
one or
on.
two times, into the match. The guy looks up and he's like, "Oh, I
Where'd
didn't
that point
realize."
come from?
Yeah, where'd that point come from? But officials obviously going to do their best to warn verbally. So we start back for period number 2, and there's a plethora of rules, and we'll sort of explain them as we go along.
We see them, yeah. It's going to be easier to explain it from an example than just explaining it by our words. Some of them can be quite confusing. We're at 2 minutes and 30 seconds left to wrestle. Sanders has a 3-point lead. He's up 4-1.
Yeah, that passivity was offered, but white paddled by both judge and chair. And you can see Sanders is dictating the pace of the match. He's not being passive. He's going 2-on-1s.
He's looking for his ties, his control ties. Takes that far hook, looking to take that far.
Oh!
Big throw here for Hooker. Hits him with a headlock, 4-point throw, and it is confirmed by the table. So he's going to take a 5-4 lead with 2 minutes left to wrestle. That was sweet. Hooker's coming out of there. It looked like they was just hanging out in that position by Sanders.
He didn't get to the Dave Schultz finals for no reason.
Yeah.
So he's got a bag of tricks. And Sanders, it looks a little shaken up
Yeah, he looks
here.
a little shocked, just as we are coming out that headlock out of right field. But that was nice. Way to score 4 points.
And since we hit that parterre scenario, let's talk about that. No forced parterre in these set of rules. So last year you would see on your second passivity warning, which was a caution, you'd give up a caution and you give up position, so you'd have to go down. Same on the third passivity. So that's not going to happen now. The only way you get to parterre position if someone gets a takedown. That said, when you're on top, if you hit a gut wrench, you score it, you got to go to something else. You can't have 2 consecutive gut wrenches. You got to go to a front headlock or you got to go to a lift. Basically, those are your only 2 options since you can't attack the legs. It's Greco. Also, if you're the bottom man, you can't fight hands. If you fight hands,
right away it's 2.
Right away it's caution and 2. And you'll give up position as well if you go out of bounds or the top guy doesn't score. So you'll return back to parterre. But so those just another set of rules, which it's tough for the bottom man in that position. Definitely favors offensive guy.
Yeah, definitely favors offensive guys.
Before guys could semi-fight the hands. They would grab it, pull it out, extend it with their arms, but they'd be forced to let go of it eventually. But it ate time, and now guys just can't eat time. Even if you're getting lifted, you're up in the air.
You have to go. You have to figure something else out. You got to get moving.
You're gone.
You're not allowed to grab them hands.
Exactly. Push against the chest. It's very slim pickings for that bottom guy. But, surprisingly, I don't think I've seen as many turns this tournament. Not because of that, because of that rule. I've seen turns, but not because of that.
Looks like they're going to call this here. Sanders doesn't look too happy. Doctor's going to call it after that big throw for Hooker.
Hooker's going to be your champion. Sanders, they said it's the second time he's hit his head, so they think he has a mild contusion, which would be a concussion.
So it looks like they're going to call it, but kind of talking back to those rule changes, probably haven't seen a lot of turns, you're right. But, it's hard now. A lot of guys are getting them trap arm guts and hitting those consecutive turns, and now with it just being one turn, time to score.
And also,
do they emphasize being on top as much?
That's correct. And also, just to throw it out there, you're not seeing a lot of turns because we haven't seen a lot of parterre.
Yes.
We have not seen a lot of parterre without the forced parterre, and that's such a disadvantage for the guy who specializes in top. And Greco, that's 50% of the battle, at least under last year's rules.